We're going to be looking at several German sentences today and identifying the different components that are within them. So for example, we're going to be looking for your verb and your subject and a direct object and an indirect object and prepositional phrases. By being able to identify these in a sentence, it will help us to understand and use the nominative, accusative, and dative cases properly in German. So for the first sentence that we have, Zum Muttertag kaufe ich meiner Mutter einen schönen Blumenstrauß. For Mother's Day, I'm buying my mother a pretty bouquet of flowers. We want to first identify the verb. What's the verb in the sentence? Kaufe is the verb in the sentence. What is the subject that is conjugated with this verb? Ich. Okay, so I am buying. Is there something that is being verbed? Is there something that's being bought in the sentence? That would be our direct object. Einen schönen Blumenstrauß. A pretty bouquet of flowers. Is there someone that's receiving this pretty bouquet of flowers in the sentence? That would be our indirect object. My mother is receiving that. That leaves us with zum Muttertag. Zum is a contraction. It is zu dem. This would make it a prepositional phrase, a dative prepositional phrase, because zu is a dative preposition. All right, let's try the next sentence. Beim Bäcker finden wir immer das beste Brot in der Stadt. So we want to first recognize what the sentence means. At the baker's, we always find the best bread in the city. Now we want to look for our verb. The verb is finden. And the subject that's conjugated with that verb is wir, we find. Now the direct object, what's being verbed? What's being found? The best bread. Is there an indirect object, someone that's receiving the direct object in the sentence? No, there isn't. Not all German sentences will contain an indirect object, just like not all German sentences will even contain a direct object. But all German sentences will contain a subject and a verb. So what we're left with in the sentence are two prepositional phrases. So we have bei dem Bäcker, dative prepositional phrase, and then in der Stadt. This is also a prepositional phrase, but in is not an accusative or a dative preposition. It's considered a two-way preposition. We see this phrase quite frequently throughout the book. We just don't know why it is the way that it is. And then we're left with immer, which is an adverb that expresses time. Always. Next sentence. We have der nette Mann empfiehlt mir das neue Restaurant in der Stadt. So, the verb is empfiehlt. Empfiehlt means to recommend. Is there someone that is recommending in the sentence? That's our subject, der nette Mann. Is there something that's being verbed, that's being recommended? What's being recommended in this sentence? The new restaurant, das neue Restaurant. Is there someone that's receiving the recommendation in the sentence? Mir, that's the dative form of ich, mich, mir. So that's a dative pronoun. And then what we're left with is in der Stadt at the end, and that is the prepositional phrase. Let's take a look at this one. Ich lese dir nach der Schule ein interessantes Buch über Politik. So let's identify the verb. The verb is lese, and the subject that goes along with that verb is ich, I read. Is there something that's being read? Something that's being verbed? Ein interessantes Buch. Is there someone that's receiving that read book? Is there someone that's being read to? Dir. So that's the dative form of du. Du, dich, dir. And then we are left with nach der Schule, after school, which is a prepositional phrase, and über Politik, about politics, another prepositional phrase. So this whole thing together means I am reading you an interesting book about politics after school. You do have to kind of rearrange the order that we would say that in English for it to make sense. All right, how about this one? Den Käse hole ich dir beim Supermarkt. What's the verb in this sentence? Hole, which is to get or to fetch. Is there someone that is getting or fetching in this sentence? Now be careful. What is this paired with? Ich hole. I fetch. Is there something that is being fetched in the sentence? Something that's being verbed? The cheese. Notice that we can start in German with a direct object. We'll talk more about word order later on in the week, but I did want to call it to your attention that it's not always subject, verb, indirect object, direct object in a sentence. We can kind of mix it up a little bit because we have cases in German. It makes the meaning a little bit more clear about what your subject is or your direct object because we have different forms for our definite, indefinite articles and pronouns. So we have here, ich hole, I am getting, den Käse, the cheese. And then who is there someone receiving it in the sentence, our indirect object? Dir, you. And then beim Supermarkt means at the supermarket, a prepositional phrase. All right, now I'm going to have you guys translate a few sentences here. Let's take a look at this one. We have, my mom is baking my brother a cake. Now I put all the components that you'll be using in your sentence below. You might have to add some possessive adjectives or change the forms of them or add a definite article or indefinite article. But we have all the components that we need for our sentence here. So why don't you try writing it out on your own now? So the sentence that we get is, meine Mutter backt meinem Bruder einen Kuchen. So backen is an irregular verb, a meat cleaver verb. It does take umlauts in the do form and the RZS form. And if we look at our sentence components here, it does help us to understand the forms of how we came up with the sentence translation. So our verb is backt. The subject, nominative, is meine Mutter. And then we look at our direct object accusative, and that's why we came up with einen Kuchen. And we identify our indirect object, which is dative, and that's meinem Bruder. Let's try another one. Let's translate Peter throws his friends the ball. So we're using werfen, Ball, Freunde, and Peter. Try translating it now. Peter wirft seinen Freunden den Ball. Werfen is also an irregular verb, so it does change in the do form and RZS forms. The E changes to an I. So here we have our verb wirft and our subject Peter, which stays the same. And then what's being verbed is the ball, so that is our direct object accusative. And then his friends, plural, plural dative, the noun takes an N ending, and if we want to say his in German, that's our possessive adjectives. That's the mein, dein, sein, ihr sein, unser, euer, ihr, that's that song. And then we just put our ein word ending on it. So en is the ending on sein, since it's plural dative. Let's try one more, and then we'll be done. Let's translate, we're ordering you guys a pizza. So this sounds kind of funny in English. It doesn't sound that funny in German, but you can put it in this order in German with the indirect object in that position there. Go ahead and translate it with bestellen and wir and ihr and Pizza. Make sure that you use the correct forms of these. Everything's listed here in the nominative form. Wir bestellen euch eine Pizza. So our verb here was bestellen. Our subject was wir. Now what's being ordered is our direct object, eine Pizza. It doesn't really change from the nominative to the accusative here since it's feminine. But when we get to our indirect object pronoun, ihr, the accusative form is euch, and the dative form of that is euch. And so we used euch here for our indirect object. Wir bestellen euch eine Pizza. That's it for today. We will pick up where we left off today tomorrow with some more examples practicing the use of the accusative and dative with direct objects and indirect objects.